Floor is not closed. Please. Thank you.
I think Arun Garu, shall we play the music? We can start meditation for 10 minutes and then we'll get started. Yeah.
Hi, Prathyusha. Actually, we are waiting for Pushpa, who is the host for this session. So, give me 1 second. Let me call her.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, Sushma.
Hey, hi.
Is it live?
Hey,
Is
sorry,
it live now?
network problem. Can you hear my voice, right?
Please go
Yes,
ahead.
we can hear you.
Okay. Can we start?
Yes, yes.
All right. Good evening, friends. We are glad to have Prathyusha as our speaker for this week's Swadhyaya challenge. She's going to discuss the book called Agartha, The Earth's Inner World, and I would like to introduce her before we welcome her to the wonderful session. She's an IT professional in the Dallas region. She's passionate about promoting meditation in corporations, volunteers with the meditation magic, and she has conducted several sessions at 6 companies, including Fortune 500, and she teaches children to enhance their focus and mindfulness in everyday life. So let's give a warm welcome to Prathyusha. The stage is yours, Prathyusha. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Shushma. First of all, I just want to extend the deepest gratitude to the whole PSSM USA for giving this opportunity. And my deepest gratitude to Brahmarshi Patriji and to all the Agartha masters. But before we get started, I think let's do a 10 minutes meditation and then we'll get into the session.
Ishan also. Of course.
All right. Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, are you able to see my screen? Just give thumbs up.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. Right. So before we get started, I'll just, if you look at this image, right? So this is all about Agartha kingdom. Right? This book is all about Agartha kingdom. What is Agartha kingdom? So if you see, this is the earth in the picture. Like if you look at my pointer, this is our earth, right? So what the author is claiming, I'm going to get a little bit more deep into this, but there is something called hollow earth. And there are human beings, like kind of fifth dimension beings, living in this hollow earth. And this place is called Agartha kingdom. And there are many, many cities in Agartha kingdom. And I think some of you might have already heard about city of Shambhala. I think that recently there's one of the movie as well. They're talking about Shambhala there, right? So, and this Shambhala is the capital city of the Agartha kingdom. And there are many more cities in Agartha kingdom. We'll talk a lot more about Telos city, where a combination of third dimensional people as well as fifth dimension people exist in the Telos city today. But in general, overall, the Agartha kingdom is all about fifth dimensional beings. And how many of you heard about like the earth shifting into the fifth dimension? If you can, let's make this more interactive. If any of you wants to raise your hand. Yeah, so this book, right, I want to make sure this seems to be a little bit of a fiction, right? But what the masters are claiming is this is the truth. There is a hollow space within the earth, and there are people living in there. Many, many centuries back, earth was believed to be flat actually. In the 15th century or the 16th century, there was a famous Copernicus, I believe the astronomer, he claimed that earth is not flat, earth is round and circular, right? And in fact, there is also, if you want to Google on this person, is a famous, in 1947, this person named Richard Byrd. He's an American aviator, actually. He used to explore a lot of places, Antarctica with his flight, like, you know, since his profession is that, you can actually Google that. You'll find some YouTube links actually about that. He happened to go inside this Agartha kingdom actually. So if you see this image, if you see this picture, the orange ones are the entry points. There are 6 or 7 entry points that people, whoever visited Agartha, right? Not all, many, but whoever visited, they have visited to 6 or 7 entry points. The most common one is actually at Mount Shasta. I know some of the meditators have been to Mount Shasta recently. They've been there. They have meditated. Why is because that's considered to be a place of lot of energies, right? So there is an entry point into the Agartha kingdom from Mount Shasta as well. Actually, we'll talk about this more in this book, but this is written by an author called Mariana. She's a Swedish author. Right from childhood, she has some psychic abilities, right? So she is a teacher by profession, but after teaching for a couple of years, then she completely transformed herself by sharing her spiritual wisdom and all of that. So she has been meditating for many, many years, and she has written a lot of books. And one of the famous books that came out from her is Agartha. So what happens is when she is meditating, there is a person called Tim, okay, Timothy Brook. So he, at once upon a time, he used to live on the planet, on the surface of the earth. So we can differentiate. When I say earth, it's surface of the earth. When I say Agartha, it's like the hollow of the earth, like inside of the earth, core of the earth. So he used to live on the surface of the earth, and he happened to go into the Agartha kingdom. We'll talk about that in this book. And he's still living there, actually. He's still living there. But he appeared in the meditation to Mariana, and he's actually conveyed a lot of information how surface of the earth is different and how hollow of the earth is different. And why are they trying to hide this place? Right? And now why are they coming and giving this information? So all of that is actually described very clearly in this book. Okay. Before that, any questions before we get started? Yeah, so this book is basically, it moves like a story actually, than concepts. It moves like a story. So Timothy, which is Tim Brook, he used to live in Seattle actually. His mom is actually a British, but settled in the Seattle area, and so his mom and so dad was actually a seaman, right? He used to carry a lot of cargo goods in his ship, and he used to deliver it into different places, and that was their day-to-day living. Again, this happened in the 20th century, in the beginning of the early 20th century. So he had a mom, he had a dad, and he also had a sister. When he was 17 years or so, around that point, he actually, one day, his dad decides to take him along with him on the ship, along with few other folks, because they were supplying the cargo to another place, and he happens to go along with him, along with his dad. And what happens is, let's move on to the next slide. So what happens is, so all of the story is being described to Mariana, the author, and who is actually, the main character of the story is still Tim, who is actually narrating it, okay? So he says when he goes in a boat, like due to the weather, the ship wreckage happens. And due to that, basically the people on the ship, his dad, everybody passes away actually. And he becomes unconscious, but he's still alive actually. So the boat, suddenly it enters into a tunnel which is decorated with paintings. It wasn't long before we were mooted at the jetty, the fair. So this Tim is actually a pretty tall guy and blonde actually. So he gets into that tunnel, but that tunnel is nothing but it's an entry point into Agartha kingdom. Okay, so there what happens is he meets a person. His name is Manuel. His name is Manuel Zerpa. And who is this person? He is another human being who is residing in Agartha kingdom actually. And he says, and he's asking about his dad and everything. And Manuel says, you are the only person saved. Unfortunately, your dad and other people on the ship couldn't be saved because of the storm. And a lot of boats go like this, and we try to save the people, whoever we can. And you are lucky enough that you are actually, I shouldn't say lucky enough, but the thing is, he has the potential to be a fifth dimensional human being. That's the reason the universe saved him. And Manuel is actually taking him inside the whole Agartha kingdom. So that's the reason because Tim has to experience the Agartha kingdom. So that's the reason he was actually saved by Manuel, and he is actually taking him inside. Okay, so and now he describes that, like you are in the inside of the earth, and when I say inside of the earth, right? So when we dig the earth, it's all about soil, metals, and all of that, right? The more and more deep we go inside, earth is basically the core. The core of the earth is basically hollow, and that's where the people are living there. Actually, yes, they do have sunlight, they do have air, they have everything, they have water, everything. Basically it's what they're claiming is this is another planet of the universe. Actually, the core of the earth is another planet. Basically, it's also called as Agartha, which is a kingdom. Okay. So he's very fascinated, like, hey, did I come to the inner earth? How is it? How did I come? Like, all of that. And Manuel says, yes, we'll explain you all the details. And then as he walks into the Agartha kingdom, like he experienced a very beautiful landscape, much more beautiful than what we have on the planet Earth, actually. And the buildings, interestingly, are very round, actually. They're pretty tall, they're round, but they don't have a rooftop. That's how they constructed the buildings. It's pretty interesting, right? So they don't have a rooftop. So they'll always get the sunlight. And there is no difference between night and sun. So then it never actually becomes dark over there. They'll always get the sunlight continuously. But again, when they get sunlight, but it's never too hot for them. It's never too hot, it's never too cold. So it's perfect weather. And that's the reason I think they build the buildings round and roof. Basically, there's no roof, basically, roofless top. And they entered into one of the houses, right? And it's basically semicircular rooms with floor to ceiling windows. And the furniture of that room was also pretty modern, contemporary, beautifully designed chairs. But they're very different from what the furniture that we have on the surface of the earth. Okay, so pretty much everything was pretty fascinating and interesting for him to see in the Agartha kingdom. So within the Agartha, he is actually still in the outer part, or I would say the most outer part of the Agartha kingdom, but he hasn't been traveled to Telos city. Eventually, they'll get to the Telos city where he will see much more of the Agartha kingdom, but is basically on the top part of the Agartha kingdom, actually. All right, so then again, these are fifth dimensional beings, right? So they can manifest anything. They have pretty interesting powers, right? So he was actually given a drink, and the drink, he tasted it and it was very wonderful. It looked like a pale wine with a slight tang of honey, but he experienced intense clarity of thought as soon as he drank that, actually. And he also experienced great well-being after drinking that certain drink, whatever was given by a new person, actually. And the manual and that new person comes in and says, hey, welcome to Wonderland Underground, Timothy, he said. How have you got here? And now I'll tell you where you are, and all of the details is what they're trying to discuss with Tim. Okay. And that person's name, whoever the person gave the drink, his name is called Dariel. And they have a committee over there, actually. So the committee takes care of all the people in the Agartha kingdom. They will help them in whatever ways, actually. So he's one of the committee member of that. And now, right, Tim knows that his dad is no more, like, physically, but he'll ask him, like, because he's very much worried about his mother and sister, right? He wants to go and see them. And he's asking, like, how can I go? Will you be able to help me to go back home and all of that? Yes, we can definitely take you. If you still want to go, we can take you, right? Like, they don't force anybody to do any certain things. It's basically free will over there, right? He was still grieving for his father, but at the same time, he was missing his mother and sister. But he was really very curious to understand what is this Agartha kingdom, where did he come, how, because he was looking at everything and everything seems to be very fascinating for him, right? So Dariel says Manuel will actually take you on a tour of our borders in a few days. First, you will be visiting Telos, which is our city, and that is where most of the surface dwellers, right? Whoever is lost in that water, oceans, the boats which sank, and all of that, whoever gets saved, that's where actually most of the surface dwellers will end up in Telos. That's the reason I was saying, right? Most of us are either third dimensional beings, especially we as human beings on the surface of the earth are third dimensional or fourth dimensional, right? So Telos is the only place where third dimensional beings are allowed. There are other cities where they can only temporarily visit for a couple of hours, but they're not allowed until they become, if they really want to stay permanently in city of Shambhala or some high energy places, those people have to be at a certain frequency, to be at a fifth dimensional beings, then only they will actually be in those certain places, certain cities actually. So this book is all about Tim, who will eventually become a fifth dimensional person, right? But how he has the capability to be a fifth dimensional being, that's the reason he was picked up by these Agarthan masters and he's being trained actually. So with that, now Manuel is actually taking him on a ride to actually to Telos city. So he'll explain Agartha. So basically it's considered as a paradise inside earth. Why is it a paradise? Because in the Agartha kingdom, there is no concept of sorrow. There is no concept of grief. There is no concept of jealousy. There is no concept of anger, hatred. So that is the reason it's called Paris. People, like basically fifth dimensional beings are that, right? So there's no concept of fear. That's the reason it's called as a paradise inside the earth. But most people who live here are just ordinary people like you and me. Manuel is explaining, right? Very few people do have sorrow, right? But then again, it is treated very differently. There are certain buildings or the certain places where there are actually people who will actually help them cope up with their sorrow, so they become completely healed actually and be happy. So people help there, so that's what they're trying to describe, how Agartha kingdom is very different from surface of the earth. So he's describing this. On the surface, you haven't discovered the joy of helping each other. Your thoughts are on money. So that's where they're explaining about how it is. Yeah. All right. So, and interestingly, as he's actually going around, so he's seeing a lot of people dancing in that Agartha kingdom actually. So Tim was very curious, like, I see a lot of people continuously dancing and singing. How is that allowed here? And then Manuel says, this is very common here. We work. It doesn't mean that we are not working, but we enjoy our work and we don't differentiate between work and our enjoyment. Like we can work for a few hours and take a break and sing and dance. So that's how they try to do the work. So that's how they enjoy it. Okay, so and as he sees a lot of people dancing, he also sees this cute girl. Her name is Cecilia actually. The minute Tim sees this girl, Cecilia, he started liking her, and then but again, right, Manuel is a fifth dimensional being, right? They can read the thoughts very easily, right? It's a telepathy. So Manuel read the thoughts and he says, yes, that girl's name is Cecilia. And after the conversation, they keep moving on to different places. And next set of questions keep popping up, right? So all these questions, because everything seems very interesting in Agartha kingdom. On the surface of the earth, we have a lot of rain, snow, storms, right? But how is it the climate is so perfect here? So Manuel says that, it is perfect here. The reason it is perfect is there is no fear, because there's no, the thoughts, as we human beings, the thoughts itself, we are sending certain vibrations, right? So the people who in the Agartha kingdom, they don't have a concept of fear. They don't have a concept of worrying at all. They're not evil. They're not jealous or envy about anything. So because that kind of vibrations, that negative vibration doesn't go in the Agartha kingdom, so the weather is always perfect over there. And they have learned to live in complete safety, right? And they believe in eternal force, which is always there to help them and to protect them. So negativity is the one which is actually disrupting the lower atmosphere and the stratosphere. That's what manual is explaining, the difference between the surface of the earth and the Agartha kingdom. Okay, all right, yeah. Any questions so far? Just doing a time check.
No, we're good. Yes. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So now the questions keep popping up from Tim, right? Timothy. You don't mean that the weather depends on how the weather depends on how people think. Surely the weather is regulated by other forces entirely. I couldn't think of anything other than the National Weather Service, but felt that wasn't quite what I meant in this context. So what Manuel is saying is, here you could say that we are in the lap of the earth, right? Because that's the core of the earth, right? Because the whole outer surface of the earth is covering it, right? This in itself represents a security, because your adverse conditions cannot penetrate the crust, the thick crust between us, because the whole Agartha kingdom is in the middle, which is a hollow earth. So that whole outer surface is actually kind of protecting them. And we honor, thank, and care His Mother Earth literally every day, because that's the reason she's provide protection and love for us. So that's great. Gratitude is what is actually protecting them as well, apart from all those positive vibrations that these people have in Agartha kingdom. Okay. Yep. Right. All right. So now he's actually taken to Telos. How does he go to Telos? So they have, interestingly, they don't have roads, unlike on the surface of the earth, because they want to preserve the nature. The minute you construct roads, you're kind of cutting down the trees and all of that, right? So there, nature, greenery, everything, the environment protection is very important. So how do they travel then? So they have a very fascinating technology. It's kind of a hovercraft. That's what is described, but how it goes and all is not exactly described. But it's kind of a hovercraft. So they get on the hovercraft. They don't even describe in the book that it is being driven by somebody. It just goes, and whenever they want to stop, wherever they want to stop, the hovercraft stops. Basically, it's kind of a flying device where people just sit and go to different places. So that's how they travel. And Manuel takes Tim in this hovercraft to a place, to a city called Telos now. Okay, and Telos is also pretty. I would say this is one of the closest city to the Mount Shasta than any other cities to the surface of the earth. So now because now he wants to go back to the surface of the earth, right? Because he wants to meet his mom and his sister. But he doesn't have any money. He doesn't know how to go and all of this, right? So Manuel is explaining that, if you really have to go to Mount Shasta, right, he will have to take him to that tunnel. Remember, he enters through that tunnel, that particular tunnel. He'll have to take him there. And then from there, he'll have to take the tunnel and get into Mount Shasta, the California. And from California, he has to take a flight to get to Seattle, right? For that flight, he needs money and all of that. So that's where he's worried about, now how do I get money and all of this. Don't worry, we'll make all the arrangements for you, because they're fifth dimensional beings, right? They can manifest anything. They can get though they don't use money. I'll get to that in the next upcoming sessions. There is no concept of money in Agartha kingdom, right? But how do they do the transactions? We'll discuss that more. But they know what surface of the people use, which is money, right? Which is dollars or currency, the various currency, Obviously, in US, it's the dollar currency. So he will exactly give that money to Tim whenever he's ready to go to the to the surface of the Earth, Seattle. Okay, so let me move on to another slides, which is session 2. Any questions so far? Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Okay, let's continue. We still have a few minutes, right? Yes, we do have. All right, so now they are traveling to Telos, as I mentioned. That whole of the journey is a device by hovercraft, right? So when they are flying on the hovercraft, they see the surroundings, actually, mountains, forests, lakes, and all of that, which is pretty beautiful, actually, right? And finally, they also see a house. This house is slightly bigger than the house that he saw earlier. It was pretty elongated. It was still, the house is round, like as we said, right? All the houses in Agartha kingdom are round, actually. The same concept. He didn't see a roof either for this building, even though it's pretty big. And what is this house? It was actually shimmering pink, which is unusual for a house. And around the house is actually beautifully arranged flowers in all colors imaginable, right? So it's such a beautiful to see with the eyes. So, and that building is actually called a town hall, where this whole meeting house happens. Remember, like the Dariel was one of the person who gave the drink. So he also participates in this town hall, actually. So there's a lot of planning meetings, and the folks actually conduct all these meetings to organize help for people who are in need. And this is now because Tim needs this help, right? Tim wants to go back. So he needs money, he needs all of that, directions and all of that. So that's when Emmanuel can actually take him. And then, okay, so there were 9 people, there were men and women. And another interesting thing about Agartha kingdom is there is no differentiation between men and women. It's nothing like everybody is equal, right? Even I think this comes in later in the chapters actually of the book, but now that they're discussing about this, men and women both have equal weightage. There's a lot of equality in there, right? That's the reason they are fifth dimensional beings, right? Like both of them have equal decision making opportunities. And let's get, and here there is a person called Arniel. He's the leader of that meeting, actually, on that conference, where they're meeting in that town hall meeting. And he says, welcome, young man, welcome, Tim. And I'm amazed and delighted at everything that I've seen, is what Tim replied, right? However, I miss my sister and my mom, and I would like to go home and visit them first. And later, I would like to return here for good. See, because he's so fascinated, right? He really liked Agartha kingdom because it's so beautiful, it's unique, it's very pleasant and all of that. He really liked it. But the thing is, he just wants to go meet his mom and sister. Maybe he's thinking of bringing them back, right? But he wants to come back for sure. And Anuel says, yes, your wish is granted, you can always go. But when you go to the surface of the earth, you should tell them that there is Agartha kingdom, which is hollow of the earth, which is the core of the earth, and you should spread this message to the people on the earth. And he kind of mumbled, actually. He said, like, will people believe me even if they say, right? And he said, don't give up, whatever they think. If you get into difficulties, we will come to your rescue, because these are masters, right? They can always come and help you. But we want you to be vocal, and we want you to spread the message, is what he's trying to convey. Okay, there is a reason that they're hiding it, actually, for a good number of years. basically because this is the fifth dimensional place, right? So they don't want all the misery, all the pollution and all of that. That's the reason they have only very certain specific entry points actually. 6 or 7 entry points are there. One is definitely from Mount Shasta, and the other one entry is from the Pyramid of Giza, actually. From Egypt also there is one entry. There is one more from Italy. Not more than 7 or 8 entry points for this Agartha. But again, these are all pretty hidden. It's not very evident how to get into this place. But I think it's time that people know. I think that's the reason this book came out. And they're explaining about this. Okay. All right. He'll say, I'll do my best. And Arniel gave, so as, because whenever he needs help, right? So he needs to call them, right? How do they call him? How does Tim can call these masters? They give a very small kind of a whistle. So when you are in trouble, just blow the whistle. You won't, even though you blow the whistle, you really won't be hearing anything, but that signal will come to us because it's a special device. And as soon as the signal comes, we will just come and appear, and you will be able to see us physically, but others will not be able to see us. That's what they are giving, that small whistle, so that he can get the help. Okay. So, and he's asking, am I going to California right away? Yes, there are regular flights to Seattle from there. What if I want to get back? Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's do one thing at a time. Okay, because he's also making sure he wants to come back. So how does he come back? So all these questions he's trying to clarify so that he can come back again. He is actually living in the Agartha kingdom actually. So he does go to the surface of the earth. He lives there for a couple of months. He will do what he needs to do, and then he'll come back again. I think we will get to that, but on a very short brief, I think that is what happens in the story. Okay, all right. So just to keep it short, so basically Manuel will take him to the tunnel, and from the tunnel he gets onto the Mount Shasta, and from Mount Shasta he'll go to the California airport, and obviously from California airport back to Seattle. Okay, and that's where he will actually reach the surface of the earth. Okay, but his message is, Arniel's message is, it's okay for you to go, but all they want Tim is to spread the message about the Agartha kingdom, right? Don't give up, however unkind the people are on the surface of the earth, whether they believe or they don't believe, we still want this message to go out to the people of the earth. Okay, so that's what they're trying to say. All right. Okay, so he is still in a little bit of confused state whether he might stay back on the surface of the earth because his mother may need his help, because she's a widow at this point because his dad passed away, right? So all these thoughts are there for him, but finally he decides to go to tell us. So he decides to, yeah, so he's saying, I don't remember coming down Mount Shasta, but at the foot of the mountain was a small town complete with motels and shops. I traveled from there by bus and taxi to the nearest passenger airport and was soon settled in a comfortable seat on a flight to Seattle. He was remembering his mother and sister because the very first time when he left his home, she was 17, the sister, and was worryingly popular with the boys. My family was everything to me and I miss them intensely, right? So that's, now he's traveling back to Seattle. On the flight, he's actually thinking about his mother and sister, and and he goes to his home actually. Let's get to that. So now finally he reached the Seattle. He went to his home now. Okay, he was super excited to see his mom and sister. He rings the bell, right? And he rings because the entry code and everything, he tries to open the door and all that. Nobody answered actually. Mother and sister were both out is what he was thinking. And then he heard a woman voice, and it was nothing but its neighbor lady actually. And she recognized him actually. You know, like, is that Tim Brooke? I thought you were drowned. Are you a ghost? And he says, no, I'm alive. You know, I didn't drown, but my dad and his friends were all drowned, but I am alive. Interestingly, this whole thing happened for 3 years. Now he's coming back to Seattle after 3 years. Because in Agartha, there is no concept of time. So he doesn't even know how long he's actually gone. Right, so that is the difference between surface of the earth. That is another difference, is what I say. There is no, time concept or days concept for that matter. I haven't had a chance to get in touch with my family. Do you know where they are? I thought Tilly was going to faint because she is very surprised to see him, right? Because all these days she was under the assumption that this kid, like, Tim, was actually drowned. But she burst into tears. You have been away for 3 years. Your mother and sister are both dead. Your sister secretly got married just before the terrible news came. And she died giving birth 6 months after her marriage. And your mother died a few months later. I think she died of sorrow after losing her entire family. And the house has been sold for a long time, but it has not sold. So I guess it is yours. Your brother-in-law, Bertie, which is sister's husband, right? So because he married his sister, he moved to Vancouver. I think he's also married. So now the house belongs to Tim. So that's what she's actually telling. So unfortunately, like, I know he came to meet his mom and sister, but he couldn't meet them. It's been 3 years. So she basically he'll happen to meet the lawyer. Tilly was a great help, right? She called the lawyer right away, and he took the taxi to pick up the keys. The lawyer had been in no hurry to investigate. He seemed very relieved that I had turned up until he could watch for me. So yeah, so it's basically empty house for good number of years. The bedrooms and everything was pretty dusty, untidy, for good number of years now. All right, I'll pause here. Let's take any questions. If you want, we can pause here and then we can continue next session. Any questions so far? Let me just take a look at the chart.
No questions. I think for me, I don't have any questions. So anybody have any questions? It is so clear, Prathyusha. So yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay, sure. So yeah, I think Pooja said Shambhala. I think one entry is from Shambhala. Yes, actually, Shambhala is exactly under the beneath the Himalayas. You might have heard about this in from certain people in the YouTubes and things like that, especially some of the gurus and all of that. Some of the Himalayan yogis had the opportunity to visit Shambhala. And I believe there is one entry from the Himalaya. Like, Shambhala is not on the surface of the earth. Shambhala is part of the Agartha kingdom. It is considered the capital city of the Agartha kingdom. Yes, but yes, for sure, there is directly one more entry directly to Shambhala, to the Agartha kingdom. Yes, that's right. Yeah, thanks, Pooja, for pointing that out. Yeah. All right, let's see. Okay, we'll continue for another 10-15 minutes and then we'll wind up. Okay, now the visit to Telos. This is not visit to Telos, basically the visit to Seattle. Actually, yeah, I think there's a typo there. Seattle, because right now he's on the surface of the earth, right? On Seattle, now he went to his house, he saw that it's locked, he got the keys, and now he has met his lawyer who is trying to sell the house and all of that, actually, or who's trying to maintain the house. So Tilly, the neighbor, actually decided that I couldn't cook for myself, and she turned up regularly with delicious meals for Tim. If it was B for pork, I was forced to throw it away, right? Because he's been in Agartha kingdom for a good number of years now, right? Because in Telos was simple vegetarian food and he could no longer eat meat. I told Tilly and Harry about Telos, right? And their reaction to the story was very simple. What do you think they might have reacted? They laughed, right? They laughed. They thumped me on the back and exclaimed, "You spin as good a yarn as your father, my son." Tilly made no comment on my story, but told me instant how much my mother had missed me and wept about the shipwreck. It didn't exactly make me feel good to hear this. Yeah. So they didn't believe. Like he tried the first attempt to teach the surface of the earth, to at least tell the people of the earth, especially his neighbor and Harry, right, who's a lawyer. But they didn't actually believe. They just laughed, right? But his guidance from the master Arniel was continue to do that, right? So that's where it is. All right. So moving on. Telly tells this news to a reporter now. Okay. Tilly tells the news to this reporter. He planned to tell the truth. The reporter took notes, asked about his childhood, imagined what happened, story of his childhood and everything. And he had sustained as the ship went down and lived there and returned after 3 years. She didn't want to alienate her readers. So the reporter took all the information from Tim, right from the childhood and how the ship went beneath the surface of the earth and how he was living there for 3 years and now suddenly he comes back and all of that. But the article and I'll pause here for a minute. There were phone calls same day after the article was published. His best friend, Matthew, a dentist, called him and invited him for dinner. He had a family. They had good time after spending time. And have you let your grandmother? So what happens is they the way the article is actually written, most of the story, like the shipwreckage and everything, is written correctly. But the article did not convey anything about the Telos actually, because the reporter didn't believe, right? So the article was published, but it was not exactly what was told by Tim, but it was slightly mad because they didn't believe the whole concept of Agartha kingdom actually. But since the article was published, at least one good thing that happened is one of his best friend actually, Matthew. He saw the article because that guy knows Tim, right? So that's how he will actually reach out to Tim and say that, hey, please come over, let's have a dinner, let's have a chit chat and all of that. So he goes and he spends some time with his friend Matt. Matt is married actually. Matt has a little girl. I believe she's a couple of years, 3 or 4 years old. And Matt is asking now, right? Now that your family is no more, did you call your grandmother? Did you find out if your grandmother is alive? Then he'll remember, yes, I do have a grandmother. Okay, let me call her. Let me call her tomorrow morning, is what he's trying to think now. And where is his grandmother? The grandmother is in Sweden, actually. Right. So the mother is actually, father is a Canadian, actually. Father is a Canadian, but mother is from Sweden, British, Europe part, actually. And they start living in, after they get married, they start living in Seattle. That's how the family. The grandmother is in Sweden, actually. She was an amazing old lady in her 70s, always interested in the supernatural, who told fortunes with cards and the like. Okay, so next day morning he'll actually call, and he tries to call his grandmother, and he wants to visit his grandmother because she is the only family person that he has now. So yeah, so with that. He'll actually go on a trip to Sweden. He'll meet his grandmother, and he will actually tell the grandmother about all the story, actually. So what do you think the grandmother will think? Do you think she'll believe, or do you think she won't believe? Any guesses? she will actually believe and support. She'll believe and support Tim, because right from her childhood, right? So she is supernatural to a certain extent, though she has never visited Agartha and all, but she has that spiritual wisdom. So that with that, I guess she's kind of supernatural. So with that information, whatever Tim says, she believes actually. So she'll try to help Tim in whatever way to spread the message. But I think we'll discuss that in the next session. How his Sweden trip goes, how his journey continues there, and all of that actually. Okay, with that we'll take pause here. Let's see. Okay, yeah, Sisha says she would believe. Yes, Pooja. Yeah, that's right. She does believe. Okay, all right.
Wonderful session, Prathyusha. The way you explained it was very, very interactive actually. So, pausing, asking questions. And yeah, Pooja, go ahead.
Yeah, Pooja, you want to unmute? Yeah, thanks, Pushpa. Yeah.
Can you unmute, Pooja, or did I?
Okay, all right. So
Yeah,
Pooja,
I think you can unmute yourself. You're not able to do?
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm audible, right?
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prathyusha Master. It was interesting book. So I have heard of Agartha. I have been to Mount Shasta with Saroja Master. And when we were there, I just wanted to share one experience. We met a person. He said his name is Thunder Eater, but some of us heard like Thunderbird. Okay, his name. And he came from somewhere from the woods. We were in the woods that time. Red Flat Fur is the name of the place in the Mount Shasta where we were doing meditation. And they say from that place there is a rock, Ascension Rock or something. You can sit on that rock and do meditation, and you can literally put this intention and feel that you're going in the telos. Like you are in that elevator, sitting in that elevator, and you are going inside the earth. And now they're welcoming you and all those things. You need to imagine, and you feel it actually. So that is one experience. Another one, the person we met there, Thunder Eater, he said in Saroja ma'am's ears, or maybe I think he told to Saroja ma'am that he was from that community and he came here to meet us, the group of 30 people, and he was 300 years old.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. When we met him first, he said, "No, I came here. I'm from Mount Shasta. I came here for camping." And literally, we didn't see the person coming from the woods, actually. We were there, we were talking. So we thought like 3,000. Yes, 3,000 years old he was. So I just wanted to share this experience. I'm still getting the goosebumps because I can still visualize that moment. So whatever you said, we people from our group felt it there. So thank you so much for this session. It was really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. Thanks for sharing your experience. That's great, right? So I'm curious now. So how is he? Like, is he pretty tall? Like just like Tim?
There is a video. They put it on PMCUSA, and if it is not there, I can share it with you when we meet for the weekend meditation in person, magic meditation. I'll share that video with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, by the way, Pooja, you're from Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Dallas,
So
right?
we
Yeah,
met this weekend.
okay. Yeah,
last
exactly.
weekend.
That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay. Because the video is not very clear. So I know. Okay, awesome. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's great experience. Thanks for sharing that. Yep. Cool. And I think the whole Agartha, the way they are living, right? It's pretty fascinating, right? So there's no concept of darkness at all, right? So the whole 24 hours is full of sunlight, right? There's no concept of money at all, right? It's just exchange, actually, exchange of goods. And look at how beautifully they've constructed the houses, actually, completely surrounded by plants and greenery and all of that. So, yep. But thanks for joining the session. All right, so we have one more person to raise the hand. Okay, 3,000 years old. Yes, please go ahead. I think you're muted.
Yeah, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, my name is Suruchi. And I also went with Pooja to Shasta. So recently, just 2 days ago, somebody posted a video of another man. His name is Lowell Johnson, and he has very beautifully described, like he himself was taken down to Telos, the elevator and everything. He was taken there and he met like the 12 beings there. And then he saw the pyramid, the huge pyramid inside Telos. So I will that videos are very nice. So I can forward it to Pooja. Maybe she can forward it to you.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Amazing his yes. And he has even there is another being who is a hybrid being, and she showed him all these artifacts and crystals and pipes, and like it's an amazing story. And she takes photos with her normal iPhone, and you can see the light beams all around him. You can see the spaceship on top of him in the phone. So he has evidence. He has evidence of all those light beings and everything.
That's nice, actually. That's great to hear about the pyramids in, Agartha
Yes.
Kingdom. Actually, in this book, they did not talk about pyramids. When was this book written? I think it was written in 2012 or 2014 by Mariana, right? But in this book, they haven't specified anything about pyramids, but that's great to know that, yes, there are pyramids even in Agartha Kingdom. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, actually, Surichi. Yep. Thank you. All right. Right. Thanks, Deepa. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Right. See you all next week. Same time on Zoom then. Thank you.
Thank you, Prathyusha. It was really a great session actually. So it is really interesting to know that there is no lower frequencies, no fear. So that's why all the weather is so perfect over there. So now it gives a thought like based on our emotions only. It's our frequencies. All these things is happening, and then we blame. I mean, people blame like, oh, this is raining, this is so hot. So where it is coming from, it's from us. So it is great insights actually. Thank you so much, yeah, for coming. We will meet next week, same time. Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody have any other questions? I think everybody is so if anybody wants to share your experience, like how you felt about it, that's also welcome. Otherwise, we're good to close the session. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.